$9 billion in funding, $28 billion in farmer relief. And you think that's the solution? The truth is, it's all just a mess. Everything has spiraled out of control.
This essay presents an extensive exploration of the controversies surrounding the Trump administration as portrayed in a recent video. The narrative examines a myriad of issues spanning economic policies, voter discontent, international trade warfare, and the media's role in shaping public perception. Drawing from several key themes in the video, we reconstruct the content in a comprehensive manner while ensuring adherence to YouTube's reuse guidelines by presenting a transformed interpretation. At the heart of the video is a searing critique of policy decisions that have steadily undermined both domestic economic stability and the United States, standing on the world stage. The narrative opens with alarming revelations. A combination of billions in government funding and misguided relief packages have left many Americans shouldering exorbitant costs. The Trump administration's approach to solving national crises, marked by abrupt decisions, conflicting objectives, and a heavy reliance on executive orders, has resulted in widespread economic instability. Consequently, while the administration has touted its actions as innovative, the cumulative impact on industries ranging from agriculture to automotive manufacturing raises serious questions about the nation's future. One of the video's central themes is the disarray that has ensued from Trump's economic policies, especially his handling of funding and relief measures during turbulent times. The narrative details that over $9 billion was allocated for certain government initiatives, while an even larger sum of $28 billion was desperately poured into a relief package intended to support American farmers amid an escalating trade conflict. Rather than being hailed as a solution, these massive disbursements have instead become symbols of mismanagement. The administration's policies have, paradoxically, contributed to a series of adverse ripple effects that burden the very taxpayers who funded them. The administration's aggressive trade war with China, initially promised to shield domestic industries, has culminated in unintended consequences. American farmers, once celebrated as heroes on the negotiating front lines, have instead found themselves stuck with an insufficient safety net. The effort to compensate them with a sprawling $28 billion relief package ultimately became a double-edged sword, funded entirely by taxpayers and laying bare the shortcomings of the underlying policies. Another pressing issue is the skyrocketing mortgage rate, reported to have hit 7.5%. For many hopeful homeowners, this translates into a burgeoning financial strain where the dream of home ownership is increasingly out of reach. A persistently elevated rate dampens consumer spending, a cornerstone of U.S. economic growth, and intensifies the pressure on middle-class families already grappling with rising costs of living. Perhaps most strikingly, the video reveals predictions that the auto sector could suffer drastic losses, with forecasts indicating that the U.S. may lose up to 2 million car sales in 2025. The impact on revenue is estimated to be as severe as $15 billion. This potential downturn is a direct byproduct of stringent tariff policies that not only discourage local manufacturing, but also incentivize foreign companies to shift production overseas. As domestic automotive giants like GM and Ford consider relocating their operations to avoid punitive trade tariffs, the loss of job opportunities and associated economic downturn become almost inevitable. These points illustrate a narrative where every policy maneuver, while outwardly aimed at protecting American interests, has instead aggravated economic uncertainty. The economic repercussions of these policies have reverberated into the political realm. The video dedicates a significant portion to describing how initially fervent supporters, particularly in pivotal battleground states like Michigan, have become disillusioned. Former Trump backers now express a profound sense of betrayal and disillusionment. The stark shift in sentiment is reflective of a broader crisis of confidence in leadership. During the campaign trails, voters were promised the twin pillars of economic recovery and reduced living costs. Instead, many are confronted with a harsher reality: job cuts, escalating prices, and a growing chasm between legislative rhetoric and on-the-ground economic conditions. Voters who once rallied behind promises of affordability now lament that protectionist tariffs and erratic policy shifts have driven prices to record highs. The irony is palpable. What was once envisioned as a pathway to prosperity has devolved into a spiral of hardship. The video powerfully captures the human cost of these policy failures through testimonies from affected citizens. Hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost due to abrupt policy changes, placing pressure on an already overstretched social safety net. With cutbacks in critical areas such as medical support and welfare services, communities feel abandoned by an administration that once pledged to champion their interests. This deepening mistrust is compounded by the observation that elected representatives in Michigan, including those supposed to be Trump's staunch allies, have become increasingly reluctant to engage in meaningful dialogue with their constituents. Their absence from community events and town hall meetings only intensifies the feeling that the voice of the people has been silenced. In an unexpected twist, the video also touches on the controversial involvement of Elon Musk in the administration's day-to-day operations. Musk's expanded role, viewed by many as an unelected interloper, has become a lightning rod for criticism among disenchanted voters. For many, his participation underscores a larger issue: the blurring of lines between political decision-making and personal ambition, further eroding trust in democratic accountability. The cumulative effect of these issues is a portrayal of a political landscape where the disconnect between government promises and policy execution has left a significant portion of the electorate feeling betrayed and powerless. While the domestic sphere reels under economic and political stress, Trump's foreign policies have drawn sharp criticism over their impact on international relations. The video outlines how aggressive tariff measures, while intended to protect American industries, have led to a cascade of retaliatory actions from trading partners and renewed skepticism among global allies. One of the most vivid examples presented is the deterioration of trade relations with Canada, a nation traditionally viewed as a reliable partner. Allegations that Trump once flirted with the concept of annexing Canada, albeit rhetorically, have left many questioning the stability of U.S.-Canada relations. The ensuing trade tensions have not only disrupted shipments, but have also triggered protests on both sides of the border, underscoring the widespread dismay over policies that pit friends against one another. The video also scrutinizes the trade policies directed at China. Initially, high tariffs were imposed in a bid to level the playing field against what was deemed predatory economic practices. Yet, this strategy has backfired spectacularly, as retaliatory measures from China have wreaked havoc on American businesses. One of the consequences is the suspension of key shipments, such as those involving Tesla, and disruptions affecting numerous supply chains. Furthermore, the video notes that China is not passively enduring these policies. Rather, it has embarked on a course to reduce its holdings of U.S. bonds and establish parallel financial frameworks. These maneuvers signal not just economic retaliation, but also an effort to reconfigure the existing global financial architecture, potentially eroding the long-standing dominance of the U.S. dollar. Beyond the direct conflicts with Canada and China, the ripple effects of these tariff policies have prompted several U.S. allies to reconsider their economic and strategic alignments. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Germany, and others have started forging independent trade agreements designed to reduce reliance on American-led economic policies. In one striking development, even Canada has moved forward with deals focusing on rare earth elements and energy, suggesting that a once unified bloc is now fragmenting under the weight of unpredictable U.S. trade decisions. Taken together, These developments paint a picture of an international environment marked by uncertainty and fragmentation. The erosion of trust in U.S. leadership may incentivize other nations to seek alternative economic partnerships and financial systems. The establishment of digital renminbi systems by China, for example, is an early indicator of a broader trend where countries are willing to diversify their economic dependencies. As nations pivot toward more stable, cooperative frameworks independent of U.S. oversight, America's traditional position as a global bellwether is called into question. In this context, Trump's trade policies are portrayed not as isolated missteps, but as elements of a broader pattern of erratic decision-making that has far-reaching consequences far beyond national borders. The widespread impact of these policies is not conveyed solely through economic statistics or policy analysis. A significant portion of the video is dedicated to illustrating how media coverage and public figures have captured and exacerbated the prevailing sense of chaos. One of the most memorable segments in the narrative features a viral impression of Trump performed by comedian Jamie Foxx. This impression, marked by uncanny mimicry and humor, has taken social media by storm, becoming a focal point of both ridicule and commentary. The video emphasizes that even as Trump clings to a defiant public persona, satirical portrayals are amplifying his missteps. Unlike traditional news outlets which may present his policies in a measured tone, viral content showcases a more unfiltered version of his behavior, one marked by haste, impulsivity, and an inability to reconcile contradictory positions. Further compounding the issue, critics like Jimmy Kimmel and other late-night hosts have seized upon these policy contradictions. Their commentary, often laced with humor, serves to diminish the gravitas of Trump's actions while simultaneously reinforcing public skepticism. In one segment, Kimmel paints a striking picture of Trump frantically typing tweets in a self-imposed frenzy, only to have his attempts at damage control backfire in real time. Such portrayals contribute to a broader narrative of a man unable to conform to traditional leadership standards, with every misstep turning into fodder for late-night skits and online memes. Social media platforms play an equally vital role in this unfolding drama. Rather than serving as passive conduits for information, platforms like Twitter and TikTok have transformed into arenas where every gaffe is scrutinized and lampooned. Trump's own impulsive use of social media, characterized by rapid-fire tweets condemning critics and labeling unfavorable commentary as fake news, highlights the dissonance between his public image and his policy outcomes. The backlash on these platforms further reinforces the disconnect between the promises of a strong, independent leadership and the reality of fractured, inconsistent governance. It is important to note that media coverage of these issues is by no means monolithic. On one side, outlets such as Fox News offer opinions that sometimes echo Trump's assertions, touting tariff policies as a means to restore American industrial might. On the other, a host of independent analysts and critics warn of the long-term economic consequences and potential geopolitical isolation that may result from such erratic policymaking. This duality ensures that while a segment of the population clings to hope, or even pride, in the administration's tough stance against adversaries, another growing segment is increasingly vocal about the tangible costs of these decisions. Collectively, these elements illustrate the power of media and satire to shape, and sometimes distort, the public discourse surrounding complex policy issues. Whether through humorous imitations or relentless social media criticism, public sentiment appears to be coalescing around the notion that inconsistency and reactionary policies are undermining the nation's core values and its future prospects. A recurring motif in the video is the narrative of policy reversals that ultimately fail to mitigate the damage already done. Trump's handling of tariff policies provides a particularly striking example of this phenomenon. Initially, Trump's administration adopted a hardline approach against foreign imports, especially targeting goods from China, by imposing exceptionally high tariffs. This aggressive stance was intended not only to protect domestic industries, but also to leverage economic pressure in international trade negotiations. However, the intended benefits soon gave way to unintended consequences. The imposition of steep tariffs resulted in retaliatory measures by affected nations, ultimately fracturing established trade relationships and sowing further economic discord. In what may appear to be an attempt to recalibrate the fallout, the administration later announced a 90-day suspension of the higher tariff rates. While this move was touted as a strategic success and an example of flexible decision-making, it did little to reverse the damage inflicted during the period of heightened tariffs. The initial blunder continued to resonate in the form of lost automotive sales, disrupted supply chains, and a general erosion of trust among both domestic industries and international partners. In essence, the suspension was less a remedy and more a temporary band-aid on a deep-seated wound. Within the video's narrative, a spectrum of opinions is portrayed, from staunch defenders of the tariff policy who argue that it represents a bold step toward leveling the economic playing field, to critics who maintain that such measures only serve to stoke further economic instability. Prominent figures on networks like Fox News argue that reintroducing or even sustaining tariffs could have long-term benefits for American manufacturing. In stark contrast, alternative viewpoints underline the risk of alienating trade partners and the high costs associated with a prolonged trade war. This divergence reflects the complexity of balancing national interest with the practical realities of a globally interconnected economy. In the broader context of international trade, the video draws attention to how these tariff-induced missteps are accelerating a shift in the global financial order. China's aggressive measures, including reducing its holdings of U.S. bonds and the exploration of an independent digital currency system, signal a move away from a global economic landscape dominated by American financial hegemony. As other nations begin to gravitate towards alternative arrangements that promise more stability and mutual cooperation, the United States risks finding itself increasingly isolated from a network of trusted allies. This shift could further diminish America's capacity to influence global trade policies and maintain its status as a financial superpower. The convergence of economic, political, and international challenges outlined in the video paints a sobering picture of America's future. With domestic policies that appear reactive and international alliances that are increasingly frayed, the overarching question becomes whether the U.S. can recalibrate and restore confidence both at home and abroad. The lost confidence in policies that once promised to deliver lower living costs and robust job growth presents a formidable challenge. As industries like automotive manufacturing, long considered a backbone of American industrial strength, face the prospect of significant downturns, the task of re-stimulating economic activity grows ever more complex. Policymakers must grapple with the repercussions of previous decisions while attempting to implement reforms that foster sustainable, long-term growth. This may require shifting focus from punitive tariffs to strategies that prioritize investment in infrastructure, education, and technology, all of which are vital for driving innovation and economic resilience. On the domestic political front, rebuilding trust among disillusioned voters is paramount. The video captures the rising sentiment of betrayal among those who cast their ballots with high expectations of transformative change. Restoring faith in governance will necessitate not only transparent engagement with the electorate, but also a willingness to genuinely address the economic hardships that have emerged. Leadership that is both accountable and responsive to grassroots demands can help bridge the widening gap between administration policies and public needs. In practical terms, this might involve rethinking approaches to social services, ensuring that relief packages are effective and targeted, and implementing measures that genuinely bolster job security and economic opportunity for all citizens. The fracturing of international alliances is another critical area that demands redress. To rebuild its reputation on the world stage, the United States must demonstrate a commitment to consistent, predictable policymaking that respects the interests of global partners. This implies engaging in diplomatic efforts that rebuild trust, as well as negotiating trade agreements that reflect mutual benefits rather than unilateral impositions. The emerging global trends, such as China's move toward digital currencies and alternative financial systems, serve as stark reminders that steadfast leadership is required to prevent further erosion of America's influence in the global arena. In an era where social media and televised commentary wield unprecedented power over public opinion, the administration's ability to manage its narrative is more critical than ever. Accepting constructive criticism, rather than resorting to defensive tweets and impulsive responses, could go a long way in mitigating damage to the country's image. A measured media strategy that acknowledges mistakes and outlines a clear path forward would not only help restore public trust, but also serve as a catalyst for meaningful policy reform across both domestic and international fronts. Despite the myriad challenges outlined, the video ultimately leaves viewers with an implicit call to action. The mounting economic pressures, political disillusionment, and fractured global alliances create an urgent need for a reset in policy directions. The administration's current trajectory, characterized by frequent reversals and inconsistent messaging, signals that the status quo is untenable. To mitigate further damage, a comprehensive review of policy decisions is in order. This could involve a redirection of resources from ad hoc relief initiatives toward measures that build long-term economic resilience. For instance, investing in infrastructure, incentivizing research and development, and providing more substantial support for key manufacturing sectors might help restore stability. These initiatives would not only stimulate job creation, but also reinvigorate industries that have been negatively impacted by reactive trade policies. Reestablishing a firm connection between elected representatives and their constituents is equally critical. The erosion of trust in political institutions, as vividly documented through the experiences of Michigan voters, is a clarion call for political renewal. Engaging in genuine, transparent communication and demonstrating a willingness to act on voter concerns can help mend the fractured relationship between government and the people. In practical terms, this might involve increasing the frequency of town hall meetings, ensuring that lawmakers are visible in their communities, and actively seeking feedback on policy impacts. On the diplomatic front, recalibrating U.S. foreign policy to emphasize cooperation over confrontation is essential. By engaging constructively with international partners, the United States could help rebuild a network of alliances that have grown wary of unilateral, unpredictable action. Confidence-building measures, such as initiating new multilateral trade negotiations and participating in international forums with a spirit of openness, might pave the way to restoring America's reputation as a reliable partner on the global stage. Finally, the interplay between media representation and public understanding must not be overlooked. While satire and biting commentary can underscore absurdities, fostering a more informed and nuanced public discourse on policy matters is imperative. As media platforms continue to shape perceptions, efforts should be directed toward providing balanced, in-depth analyses that help voters and stakeholders grasp the complexity of the issues at hand. In summary, the video presents a multifaceted and often scathing examination of the Trump administration's policy decisions. Through a detailed exploration of economic mismanagement, political disaffection, and the fracturing of international alliances, it constructs a narrative that is as compelling as it is disconcerting. The video argues that while each decision may have been crafted with the intention of safeguarding American interests, the cumulative effect has been a cascade of unintended consequences that threaten the country's long-term stability and global standing. From the imposition of crippling tariffs to the ensuing retaliatory measures by international partners, the economic impact is palpable. Voters in critical states like Michigan are increasingly vocal in their discontent, as promised economic recovery and affordable living standards remain elusive dreams overshadowed by job losses and rising prices. Meanwhile, diplomatic relations with trusted allies suffer under the strain of erratic policy shifts, forcing nations to explore alternatives that exclude U.S. leadership. The media's portrayal of these events, through viral sketches, satirical commentary, and relentless social media debates, further amplifies the growing sense that the nation is at a crossroads. This is not merely a tale of policy gone awry. It is a broader commentary on leadership, accountability, and the inherent risks of decision-making in an era of rapid information dissemination and heightened public scrutiny. Looking ahead, the pressing challenge for American policymakers lies in the ability to reassess and reformulate policies that have, inadvertently, set the stage for instability. This involves reconciling the contradictory demands of protecting domestic industries while preserving international goodwill, ensuring that relief measures actually benefit struggling citizens, and reestablishing a credible, consultative political process that rebuilds trust among the electorate. Although the road ahead is uncertain, the events captured in the video serve as a stark reminder of the importance of coherent and consistent policy making. As domestic discontent grows and global alliances shift, there remains a critical opportunity for a transformative change, one that prioritizes long-term national interests over short-term political gains. Reforms that invest in innovation, infrastructure, and the social fabric of communities could ultimately restore confidence in the American dream. Ultimately, the video's narrative is not just an indictment of past policies. It is a call for introspection and reform. In highlighting the economic, political, and diplomatic costs of erratic decision-making, the content challenges viewers to demand better from their leaders, from the media, and from the structures that govern society. It calls for an end to the cycle of reactive measures, and for the establishment of a governance model capable of providing stable, reliable, and forward-looking solutions to the most pressing issues of our time. This comprehensive look at the Trump administration's legacy, characterized by its rapid reversals, misplaced priorities, and the profound human costs involved, serves as both a chronicle of present woes and a cautionary tale for the future. With the stakes higher than ever, one thing is clear. The policies of the past few years have left an indelible mark on the nation, one that demands a decisive and thoughtful response if America is to reclaim its place as a leader both at home and on the world stage. In reflection, while the administration's freewheeling approach may have initially resonated with a segment of the electorate enamored by its defiance and bravado, the fallout has now reached a point where the costs are too significant to ignore. The challenges presented, from the economic fallout to the disillusionment of voters and the reshaping of international alliances, underscore the urgent need for a paradigm shift. Only by embracing accountability, encouraging constructive dialogue, and implementing sustainable reforms can the United States hope to navigate the turbulent waters ahead and restore a sense of unity and national purpose. As the video concludes, it leaves the audience with an enduring question. How long will the consequences of these policies continue to unravel, and what will be the ultimate price of political mismanagement on American society? The answer, though complex and multifaceted, ultimately rests in the hands of both policymakers and citizens determined to forge a future based on transparency, sound judgment, and a commitment to shared prosperity. By chronicling these events with a mix of critical analysis and compelling storytelling, the video provides an in-depth examination of a period marked by significant upheaval, a period that will undoubtedly be scrutinized by historians and economists in the years to come. For those willing to learn from past mistakes, this narrative offers both a warning and a roadmap, a clear signal that the time for splintered, reactionary policies is over, and that a more thoughtful, inclusive approach to governance is essential if America is to thrive in an era of global uncertainty. In closing, this account, a synthesis of economic missteps, political betrayals, and disruptive foreign policies, stands as a testament to the enduring need for principled leadership and accountability. It is a call to action, urging policymakers to rethink their strategies, and for the American people to demand a future where leadership is measured not by fleeting sound bites or viral impressions, but by tangible improvements in the quality of life and the preservation of national integrity.